All right, rail fans, welcome back to another episode of Fallen Flags America. I'm your host, Ellen M Productions, and today we will be discussing the EMD SDP45. The EMD SDP45 is a six-axle or CC wheel arrangement, 3,600 horsepower locomotive, designated as a road switcher, diesel-electric locomotive built by GM's Electromotive Division in LaGrange, Illinois. It was built as a passenger hauling version of the SD45 on extended frame, squared off long hood at the rear, aft of the radiators, giving them space for a steam generator for passenger train heating, since this was the days before HEP was invented or head end power. This steam generator placement followed the pattern set of the SDP35 and the SDP40. So, there was only a handful of railroads that purchased the SDP45. Let's start off with, as you can see here, the first one we'll be discussing, the Southern Pacific. The Southern Pacific ordered 10 SDP45s May 9th, 1966, with the units being placed in service between May 24th and July 26, 1967. Initially on the city of San Francisco, between Oakland, California, and Ogden, Utah, and eventually used system-wide. As built, each unit carried 2,500 U.S. gallons, or 2,500, of fuel, and 3,000 U.S. gallons of steam generator water in a partition underframe tank. The steam generator was a Vapor Model OK4740. SP units had Pyle National gyro lights on the leading end, came with Nathan P3 horns, and cost around $317,156,000 each. SP straight SDP45s from the same period cost $290,788 each. Ordered with a 62 by 15 gearing with the overspeed set at 72 miles per hour, the gearing was changed to 6017 overspeed at 83 miles per hour during 1968 through 1969. All except 3201 and 3207 would have eventually been re-geared back to 6215 once they entered commuter service. After Amtrak took over long-distance routes starting in 1971, various units released to Amtrak for West Coast service, primarily on the Coast Starlight, until Amtrak replaced those with new SDP40F locomotives, while the rest were used in freight service or on company specials. Beginning in 1973, the SDP45s are used for commuter service on the San Francisco Peninsula Commute, replacing Fairbanks Morse H2466 Trainmasters. SP's commuter service was demanding work, and the locomotives required electrical modification to meet those demands. A passenger start switch, quote unquote, was installed inside the cab electrical cabinet. In the COM position, the units were held in parallel in the FRT/pass position. Normal transit was made. They stayed in commute work, often working in freight service on weekends, until 1985 when Caltram was created, and they were placed into freight service until their retirement. Initially working out of Roseville, California, then in local and hauler service in the Los Angeles Basin. All were retired between 1986 and 1990 and sold for scrap. The next buyer we get to, since there was only 3 buyers, is the Great Northern Railway. The Great Northern Railway purchased 8 SDP45s in 1967 to replace aging F units on the Empire Builder. Normally paired back to back, they were also used slingingly leading F units. These joined the smaller SDP40 locomotives ordered in 1966 for the Western Star. After the startup of Amtrak in 1971, Great Northern Railway successor, the Burlington Northern, converted all 15 SDP45s for freight service. The last buyer we get to is the Erie-Lackawanna Railroad. The Erie-Lackawanna Railroad ordered 14 SD45Ms in 1969 and 1970. Intended for freight service, these units had standard angled, long hood ends, extra space aft of the radiators, had concrete ballast. Their longer frames permitted a larger fuel tank, which gave the locomotives a greater range between fuel stops. Next up, we get to rebuilds. One of the Burlington Northern SDP45s, number BM5599, close up of the 8's BM5599 was retrofitted with an articulated 4-axle truck by EMD in 1983 to 1984, converting it to an A1A-B wheel arrangement. The middle traction motor in the lead truck was removed and placed in the rear truck. The rear truck was called the HTBB for high traction B+ arrangement, was tested successfully, but advances on traction motors obviated the need for 4-axle trucks. This testing was not related to the development of the HTC 3-axle radial truck, first seen under the EMD 60 series, and eventually made its way into the 70 series. Southern Pacific 8691 through 8696, as seen here, were SD40M-3 rebuilds, rebuilt by Morse Knudsen. They were of ex-Erie-Lackawanna heritage, being of former numbers 3654, 3668, 3666, 3665, 3662, and 3659. It was this group that most surviving SDP45s belonged to. Preservation. Erie-Lackawanna 3639, later renumbered to Conrail 6670, was listed as being preserved at the Virginia Museum of Transportation, although the museum's collection list does not show it. In August 2018, Youngstown Steel Heritage announced their intention to purchase the 3639 and move it to their museum with the goal of restoring it to operating condition, and eventually back to its original number and paint scheme. In September 2018, the group announced that they had successfully purchased the locomotive. Well, that about wraps up the video, guys. If you'd like to hear more on any of the SD45 series, or if you have a suggestion for me to do in the next video, leave it down in the comments for me, as I always try and read your comments. Anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. I will catch you later. This is L&M Productions, out.